Chapter 33. A New Curriculum. Blue. Everyone's attention is on me. The glowing cauldron radiates light as if to encourage the last people in the corner to turn around and stare at this potion gone wrong. This cannot be the correct reaction. It looks nothing like the other brews. Whatever I put in this pot, it wasn't supposed to go in there. Blue? Blue, what the... I hear Master over the small crowd that is gathered around his station. He sounds mad. Annoyed, at the very least. He has to push his way through his dumbfounded classmates. It's all I can do to kneel down and hide myself from the gaze of the other students behind the workstation. I can feel everything good that Master and I have built together crumble like sand under this new revelation. Last night Master claimed me. Not in a way that I'm familiar with, but it was a claim all the same. Usually the claiming comes the day of my purchase. I wear the bruises and aches of my use, and there's a sense of stability that comes with them. I was used, therefore I am claimed and have a place in my master's house. Last night, all the stability of a claiming followed, but Master didn't have to do a thing but talk to me. He spoke of the things a master might do as a responsibility, not an indulgence. I'm his. Simple as that. He didn't need to leave bites or bruises on my skin, because his hold is all-encompassing. He more than owns me. He cares for me. At least, he did. I wish I had the more concrete declarations. The burn might bring me some bit of solace as Master scrambles to fix the mess I've left him. Kara, what is this? It's the teacher, staring over our cauldron with wide eyes. At least he doesn't seem too mad. Maybe he can't tell how terribly I've messed this up. I don't want Master's grade to suffer for my incompetence. Well, sir. Master speaks slowly, dipping his finger into the mixture, working it quickly between his fingers before returning his attention to the teacher. You see, we were trying to make a concentrate. That's why it's not the color it should be. It's a little more potent, too. We were just messing around with the rearrangeable materials. He continues on, but I stop listening in favor of catching my own breath. Master is lying well and with a smile on his face, while I try to regain enough presence of mind to slow my heart. He hasn't even looked at me. I pray that he's calmed down some by the time he does. Hey, you okay? Tulla's monotone voice reminds me of her presence. She moves so silently I doubt anyone realizes that she's there before she starts speaking. At least that's how it seems to me when I realize that Tulla is crouched not an inch from me. Stars above! I'm fairly certain my heart is succeeding in its efforts to pound its way out of my chest. Tulla sits beside me, utterly unfazed by the commotion above and around us, studiously ignoring all the questions flying above our heads. That's a pretty unique component, she says after a few beats of silence, probably accepting that I wasn't going to answer her first question. I'm reminded that she's my only witness. She knew what I put in the cauldron. If not what it was, then at least what it wasn't. She'd seen it for a split second, and she'd been able to tell that it wasn't a carry feather. If the lying that Master's trying to pull off is any indication, it's best that no one new find out what's in the brew. Please don't say anything. I don't even know what that was. I grabbed the wrong thing in my master's workshop. I don't think this was supposed to happen. I try to plead with her, but she cuts me off, completely unfazed, still in that gloomy, single-toned drone. I doubt it was supposed to happen, too. Your master doesn't seem like the flaunty type. Her antenna gives a little twitch. It's as close to an emotional reaction as I've been able to get out of her, and I suppose I count it as a win. She doesn't seem invested one way or the other. At least she doesn't seem eager to rat me out. So, you won't say anything? I don't like the tremor in my voice, but I'm not above begging. I need this clear between us. If nothing else, I'll settle for trying to make her understand how important it would be to me. Oh, well, if my master asked, I would be bound to answer. She hedges carefully, and I feel my heart sink. I understand. I press my hands together in an effort to keep the trembling to a minimum. Her master is the teacher. Of course she would be obligated to answer his questions and observe his students. He couldn't possibly keep an eye on all of them. It's only a matter of...
Just messing with you, kitty cat. You can't make me tell him shit.
A devilish smile spreads across her face. I manage a half-smile in return before a hand grasps my shoulder and pulls me up onto my feet. My master's smiling, but not at me. He's turned to the rest of the class, smiling at them. It's only me who notices the tension in his steps as he pulls me out the door.
Stars, I thought we'd never get out.
He takes a deep breath as soon as the door closes and sets a brisk pace, walking away from the classroom. I follow slowly behind him, nervous to abandon the safety of public space, but unwilling to lag behind. Master, your class... I try to draw attention back to the most pressing commitment. Any extra time for him to cool off would be appreciated.
I told the teacher we'd be leaving early.
He doesn't turn to address me, and at this point it's hard for me to match his wide steps. Master, I try to hasten my way to him and apologize, beg. I'm not even sure what the most pressing concern is at the moment.
We're going home, Blue.
Master's voice cuts through my half-formed protest, curt and dangerous. I take the hint and follow him quietly. We turn the corner to an uninhabited hallway, and Master pulls out a totem. I have a half-second to prepare myself for transport before Master activates the seal. The last thing I see is someone turning down the hallway. That someone is very surprised to see us vanish. In that flash of transportation, it looks like the house appears around us rather than us materializing inside the house. Regardless, I have to take a moment, leaning against the cabinet in the hallway before I can breathe normally.
What happened? Stars above, I've tested that recipe before, I swear! Nothing like that has ever happened before!
Master is pacing like mad, down and back the hallway before he turns to face me. I can see the anxious tremble in the line of his body, but it's nothing compared to the fear in his eyes.
Blue, what did you put in the cauldron?
I'm sorry. It's out of my mouth in place of a real answer, and as meager as it is, it's all I have to offer. The look on Master's face crushes me, like he hadn't known the issue was me. Had he thought it was a freak accident? He probably just didn't want to face the idea of his pet knowingly screwing up his assignment.
What did you put in the cauldron?
The question comes again, calm and even, though the tone does nothing to assuage my fear. Master takes a half-step closer, and I summon every bit of resolve to hold my ground. I was trying to do what you asked, but... The excuse sounds weak to my own ears, and that's without the useless stuttering peppered in. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't mean to cause him so much trouble. I need him to understand that.
But you changed out my components?
Blue, His voice is hard, unyielding to my pitiful entreaties. He's not asking for justifications. He's asking for an answer, something I'm proving unwilling to give. I'm sorry. I didn't know what it was, and I was so scared it was gonna hurt you. I try to appeal to the gentle, kinder side of my master. This rigid, unyielding side of him is new to me, confusing and possibly dangerous. I need him to understand that I meant him no harm, that I didn't understand what I was doing. Sure enough, his posture slumps as the dangerous light leaves his eyes, and he speaks in a tone meant to soothe once more.
Blue, it was a healing drought, he explains. You would have had to include fireworks in the mix in order to get a hope of a spark. Why do you think it's what they start potion students on? Failure is just a waste of material and maybe a bad smell. There's nothing in the mix that's volatile.
His eyes are weary, but he breathes a sigh of relief as I do. This is the master I am familiar with. This is my kind and gentle master. Well, that's a breath of relief now. I try to choke out a lilting, teasing tone, but my voice cracks under the weight of the stress at precisely the wrong moments.
Blue, what did you put in the cauldron?
His voice is quiet, but no less firm.
He's worried about spooking me, but he needs to know the answer. He'll probably have to explain himself to his teacher sometime in the coming days. I fiddle with my thumbs, trying desperately to come up with a believable excuse as to why I don't know the name of the component I gave him this morning. After a few minutes, Master gives a little huff at my unresponsiveness. "Will you show me?" he asks quietly, directing the question more to the space between us than to me, as though it would be more likely to answer. I nod. I'm more than willing to show him what I put in his potion. I just wish I had the courage to find my voice. Master goes first, turning immediately and opening the door down into his study. He heads down the stairs without even sparing a look back to make sure that I'm following him. He has trust that I'll follow him. Though, considering my options, where else would I go? Even still, it's strange to move untethered, unordered, of my own volition, downward into my master's private den. My mind flicks through too many memories that have me questioning whether or not this is a good idea. The room lights up as Master walks in. It's mostly crystals, shining in different hues. But before I can distract myself with anything else, Master asks his question again. "What did you put in the cauldron?" His voice is even, and I have to commend his efforts not to show his anger. I'm nowhere near as successful at hiding my own emotions as I point out the jar of feathers on his desk. "Stars above, Blue! Those are Almac feathers! That basic drought could probably heal a broken bone with these in it. Why did you bring me this?" The question is no less damning with the knowledge of what I've brought him. "I thought it was what you wanted." I try to answer truthfully, swallowing around the lump in my throat. I can feel the tears beginning to form, but I refuse to let them fall. "What? Why?" Master's question is so simple and yet so complicated. Simple for the average person, made complicated because of my stupid actions. "It was on the desk, and—" I try my best to lay out my thought process, but Master cuts me off. "Blue, I asked for Carrie feather. It doesn't say that anywhere on this jar, nothing close." He waves the jar for emphasis, and I have nothing left to say. There's an angry ember in my chest, just an uncomfortable twinge at being the guilty party, even though I couldn't have succeeded. "I wouldn't know!" It comes out snappy and angry and everything I'm not entitled to be, and I regret it the second it leaves my mouth. Especially because my wonderful, amazing, attentive master doesn't miss it. "What?" he queries, and I know I'm in a rough place. Even still, he wouldn't be as angry with me for misbehaving if he knew it was because I was just incapable, right? I can't. I don't know how to read." It's harder to get out than I imagined, my stutter getting worse than it has since he first got me. But once it's out, my master says nothing. I don't know what to do with that kind of reaction. Does Master blame me? Has he realized just how stupid his pet is? That I don't even have the basic skills of most children? "Oh, stars above! I'm an idiot!" Master smacks himself on the forehead, seemingly coming to some sort of realization. I suppose it's fair that he hadn't realized my inadequacies. I did do my very best to keep them out of his eyes. I tried to keep them hidden. He can't blame himself for missing the simple fact. And yet, by the look on his face, it seems he does. "I'm sorry, Blue. I didn't mean to cause such a— Stars burn it all, why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't know it would concern you. It's not considered normal to teach pets, or most house servants for that matter." "Do you want to learn?" He says it so simply, as though he's asking me if I want a pastry, that it takes me a moment to process exactly what he's saying. Do I want to learn how to read? Is he serious? Stars above! That is so much more precious than anything else he's ever offered me. He would. I know he would. He doesn't make empty promises. He doesn't say things he doesn't mean. It's not a game to him. He wouldn't dangle this in front of me just to snatch it back. He means it. He would teach me. He's willing to teach me.
I... Literacy is a freedom I never thought I'd be able to claim. The ability to look at a page and interpret the symbols there. The ability to fall into a book that describes things that I could never have hoped to see, to experience. The ability to dive headlong into a whole new world. It's something that would survive to a new owner. Not like the scars that I thought would stay with me, disappointing each new master. Not like the name this master gave me, which could just as easily disappear should the new master dislike it. This would be mine. Something no new master could take away. "I'm not smart," I blurt out, and Master blinks back a look of surprise, so I try to explain in a fit of nervous energy that makes me feel like I could run from this side of town to the next. But I swear to you I will work as hard as I can." "Blue," Master starts, but I'm not finished. I can't have him thinking I'm taking this lightly. I can't bear the thought of him taking the task on lightly either. I know I probably won't get it, but please don't give up on me. I really would like to learn. I want to learn. Please." I stutter and babble through my words, desperate to get everything out in one go before Master can reconsider his offer, before he can say no. "Blue, I'll teach you. I'm not messing around. Say you won't give up." I know I have no right to demand this, but I need to hear him say it. I need him to acknowledge that it probably won't go smoothly. I need him to understand that I'm not the best, but stars, I want to learn. "Please, I know I won't get it. I'm stupid, I know that, but please, please don't give up on me." "Blue, even if it takes..." Master smiles down at me, and I can't bear the grin in his voice. "Swear to me." He can take it back. He could be lying. His promise to a pet doesn't mean anything. He could break it without any consequences. But I need to hear the words. "I swear I won't give up on you." He pulls me into his arms. My head's flush against his chest, so I can feel as much as hear his heartbeat. "You do know that it's something pretty hard to do, right?" he mumbles, pressing little kisses onto the top of my head, draining the fight from me. "No one is expecting you to make sense of it overnight. I certainly don't. We'll start you with some basic stuff and build from there. You're not stupid. It's just something you're learning." As the moment passes, so does my blind intensity, and I'm struck by the utter disrespect I've shown in the past few minutes. I've yelled, talked over my master, and demanded things I had no right to. "I'm sorry." It rings so painfully inadequate that I almost flinch at my own words. "I shouldn't have... That was wrong of me. I didn't mean to demand anything of you. I... The words don't want to come out of my throat, but Master hushes me, and not with angry words or the promise of retribution. He brushes his fingers through my hair, the other hand drawing calming little circles into my back until he decides to break the silence. "You have nothing to apologize for. This was my mistake. I should have noticed sooner. I'm proud of you. You told me what was wrong, and you showed me just how much you needed me to take this seriously, and I am. I swear, Blue. We'll be doing school together, learning side by side, just different subjects. Sounds pretty good, right?" It's all I can do to nod where I'm secured against his chest. "Do you know anything? I just want to know where to start. Are we going from scratch, or do you know your letters?" His voice is light, but I can feel the tension in his chest, the strain it is causing him to talk in the light tone that he uses with me. "I know numbers," I blurt out. I know it's pathetic, but I feel the need to offer up something. "I'm good at numbers and simple... I try to continue, scrambling to remember what the simple one is called, the mathematics with just the adding and dividing. "Arithmetic." "You don't know your letters, but you know numbers?" I hear the snicker in Master's voice before he can smother it down on his own. It must sound pretty unbelievable. "I don't know what the numbers look like if they were written down." I couldn't read them off a page or differentiate them from the swirly symbols that are letters, but I try to explain what I mean. I'm not lying about knowing my numbers, but The numbers were more useful.
More useful than the written word? He prompts further, and I feel my face heat.
The numbers keep count. On my paperwork, I'm entertainment. It's not legal to sell a body slave under 12, so a lot of people get around it by putting them into a different set of training.
The silence between us is a palpable thing. Master doesn't speak, but he pulls me ever closer to him, tightening his arms around me.
I dance,
I answer the silent question I can feel on the tip of his tongue.
They train me to dance and entertain. The numbers are useful, keeping count and tracking steps, and from there the basic maths followed. It's also useful when a master decides to itemize my infractions during a punishment. 30 strokes for this, 10 for this, 15 for something else, a reprieve of 5 because I was well behaved for the rest of the evening. It helps to know what's coming, when it would end at least.
I try to explain. My voice doesn't quite hold its resolve all the way through, eventually dwindling to a whisper that I willingly smother into my master's chest. Was dancing good for you? Master asks, his lips pressing gently behind one ear, making me squirm unexpectedly. Master doesn't pursue the reaction, simply runs his hand through my hair in a soothing gesture.
I'm told I'm very flexible and keep time well, a natural study for the skill.
I parrot back what I've been told by instructors and entertained guests alike. That doesn't really answer my question, Blue. Do you like it? Master pushes, and I'm silent for a minute.
I enjoy it,
I answer, realizing as I voice the statement how true it is. I had no choice in learning the skill. It was chosen for me, as was how far I would pursue the training, but I enjoyed it for as long as I had been trained. The training was unfamiliar, as was the strain it put on my body, but I liked learning my limitations. I liked discovering just what my body could do, how far I could push myself. I liked the satisfied burn in my body from the exertion.
Well then, we'll have to look into continuing that, Master says,
continuing to stroke the uneasiness out of my body. I'm glad Master's holding me. I'm dizzy with the possibility that Master would let me pursue dance, not because it accentuated my better qualities, but because it interested me. Oh, look at that. We've disturbed the little elemental. Master releases me slowly, turning me to see the amorphous glob of sand that's slinking as close to us as it can get while still remaining on the main desk.
What's that?
My voice cracks over the question, but Master chooses to ignore it in favor of introducing me to the blob. Sand elemental. My brother sent it to me, he says in lieu of an actual explanation.
Does he have a name?
I ask, moving a bit closer to the blob, trying not to spook it into running to wherever it was hiding. Not sure. Sometimes they spend a lot of time around people and find names that they like, but given how skittish this one is, I doubt it liked being around folks. And unless you're told otherwise by an elemental, they usually don't have genders.
How do you know?
I can't help but wonder aloud. Well, elementals can sometimes pick a gender the way they pick a name. They recognize it as a person concept and abide by it for their own amusement.
I mean, how can an elemental tell you?
I clarify. They have their own language, just like you and me, though they don't all have functional ways to make and interpret noise, so it's more movement-based, something they can all recognize. Master makes little motions with his hands, making sure that he has the elemental's attention before continuing on with more advanced motions. The elemental responds in kind, moving its whole body. The more Master gestures to it, the more familiar the gestures seem. Zadik, Master says eventually, coming out of his intense discussion. It likes Zadik, and doesn't enjoy the concept of gender. Those motions, they look like what Avery was doing to communicate with Sui. I thought they made it up together, but you know it? I must sound crazy, but Master assuages my nervousness. Sui can't speak, right? And her owner has an auditory issue.
Yeah, elemental is pretty standard to use in those cases. It's pretty universal, though I think there are some regions trying to come up with dialectical versions. Don't know why, though. It's easier to just have the one universal. Master rambles on for a bit before he quits, looking sheepish. Would you teach me some of that, too? I feel the blush rising in my face. I know I'm asking for a lot, but it's important to me. I don't want to be a bother. I just... Sui and the rest. Blue. I'd be glad to.